Good morning, students. Welcome back. In this video lecture, we'll be discussing about the class Phasmida, and the example that you have to study under this class Phasmida, it is a Trichinella Spiralis. It is Trichinella Spiralis. This is a beautiful image of a Trichinella Spiralis, which is present in the tissue. This is a H&E diagram, that is a hematoxylin eosin stained view of a section of a muscle, in which you can see this embedded Trichinella Spiralis forms. This Trichinella, it is a genus of parasitic roundworm of the phylum Nematodes, and that causes a disease called as a Trichinosis. Trichinosis. That is a trichinosis. That is the name of the disease that is caused by Trichinella. So you must be clear with all these diseases. The other disease of Enterobiosis caused by the Enterobiosis infection, it is a Enterobiosis. That is a disease, and here Trichinella causes a disease called as a trichinosis. Or we can say that heavy infestation of this Trichinella leads to a condition called as a trichinosis. The members of this genus are often called as a Trichemia Worm. Members of this genus are often called as a Trichemia worms, and it requires to host both the mammals to complete its life cycle. So these organisms, this Trichinella worm, requires to host both will be mammals to complete its life cycle. And as you can see here, this is a male one and this is a female one. The male one are the smaller in size and is over 1 millimeter in length, and the females is 3 to 4 millimeter long. These males will be about 1 millimeter length, and this female will be of 3 to 4 millimeter. So from this picture itself, it's clear that the females are larger and they will be double the size of that of the male. The male has a pair of conical copulatory lobes at the posterior end. So at the posterior end, this is a posterior end. At this posterior end, you can see a pair of copulatory lobes at the posterior end, and the female have this vulva. The female have a structure called as a vulva which is at the anterior region of the organism. So in the adult condition, this organism lives in the intestine of the man, pig, rats, polar bears, whales, seals, etc. And the female Guinea worm is a viviparous and burrows into the intestinal wall and deposit the larvae there. So upon the sexual maturity, this a female Trichemia worm burrows into the intestinal wall and deposit the larvae in the intestinal wall, and these larvae penetrate into the lymphatics or the veins and are carried to the skeletal muscles, where they coil up to get encysted. You can see here the encysted form of the worm. So once again, the female Trichemia worm, they burrows into the intestinal wall. So this is the intestinal wall, and they get burrowed into the intestinal wall, and these larvae penetrates the lymphatics or the veins and are carried to the skeletal muscles where they coil up and get encysted themselves. And dispersal of the species takes place by the flesh of an infected animal being eaten by another animal, the same or the different species. So infection is taking place like that. If this meat is eaten up by another animal, then it gets directly ingested into the body of the other organism. And man becomes infected by eating the raw or improperly cooked measly pork. And what is a measly pork? It is a encysted, it is an if the meat is encysted by this type of larval form, cyst of this larval form, that contaminated or infected meat is called as a measly pork. Infected pork is called as a measly pork. And after the cyst gets into the intestine, what happens is that the larvae gets liberated. These larvae gets liberated, and the symptoms of trichinosis are the intestinal disturbances, muscular pain, fever, mental disturbances, and edema. So these are the few conditions that occurs. So these are the few symptoms: the muscle pain, fever, then stomach ache, mental disturbances, edema, etc. are the symptoms of this heavy infestation of this Trichinella species. So the mild irritation or the abdominal cramping or even diarrhea can occur if infection is mild, and the larva gets released in the stomach and mature into the adults with about 1 to 2 weeks in the bowel or in the stomach. And what happens is that they get through the intestinal fluid, they get migrate and penetrate into the striated muscles, and they get encysted inside these muscles, and the same life cycle again repeats. When this infected muscle part, it is taken by the other organism, either by the other organism by the raw or in not improperly cooked meat taken by another man, then again the cycle repeats. So that's all about the life cycle of this Trichinella Spiralis. So the next general essay that you have to study is a pathogenic nematodes in man. The first pathogenic nematode that you have to study, it is Wichuraria bancophthi. This Wichuraria bancophthi. The second is Ascaris lumbricoides. Then there is a Encyclostoma duodenale. Then the last one, it is a Trichinella, which we have finished just now, Trichinella spiralis. So these are the 4 different nematode worms that you have to study as a general essay topic, which comes under the pathogenic nematode. In this Wichuraria bancophthi, it is a common filarial worm which causes a lymphatic filariasis in man, and it is an endoparasitic nematode inhabiting the lymphatic system of man. And as you can see in this picture, these adult worms are the long, slender, and they are the creamy white, translucent, and their body is covered by the smooth and transversely striated cuticle. You can see a cuticle cover. The male and the female exhibit some degree of sexual dimorphism, and the male, it is much smaller than the female. The males are much smaller, as in this diagram. You can see the two. This is the male one, and this is a female one. This Wichuraria bancophthi, it is a human parasite. It is a human parasite, parasitic roundworm. Human parasitic roundworm, that is a major cause for the lymphatic filariasis. So you just make a note of this. It is a filarial lymphatic. It is a major cause of lymphatic filariasis. This worm is called as a Wichuraria bancophthi, is called as a filarial worm. This is a systematic classification of this filarial worm. It belongs to the superfamily Phylloidea. Then subclass, it is Acanthochelonematinae. Then genus Wuchereria. The species, it is a Bankophthyi. This Wuchereria Bankophthyi was named after the physician Otto Wucher and parasitologist Joseph Bankoff. These are the two persons who identified or named this organism. And when we come to the morphology, they are the dioecious form, that is the male and the female. You can see the differences. It's about 40 millimeter by 0.1 millimeter about the male, and the female is about 80 to 100 millimeter in length. So that is there is a clean-cut morphological size difference between the male and the female. Then about this morphology of this Microfilaria, that is as larval form Microfilaria. It is a larval form of this Wuchereria Bankophthyi. This Microfilaria, that is when the egg of this Wuchereria hatches, it develops into a microfilarial worm. It is a colorless and a transparent body, as you can see here. The colorless and a transparent body with a blunt cephalic end and a tapering cell-free caudal end. The caudal end, it is a tapering. The whole body is enclosed within a loose hyaline sheet or the sac. You can see here the whole body of the organism is filled with a hyaline sheet or the sac. It represents the persisting egg envelope, and the sheet is much longer and it projects beyond the anterior. You can see here beyond the anterior and the posterior extremities of the body. The sheet extends beyond the anterior and the posterior extremity, as you can see in this diagram. These Microfilaria live up to 12 months in the human body. Okay, then this Microfilaria, because of the presence of this sheet, they can move back and the forth within this sheet. So within this sheet, this organism can move to and fro, and they can live up to 12 months in the human body if not infested by the mosquitoes, and they occur in large number in the circulatory blood, and typically they are the night swarming and exhibit the nocturnal periodicity. And actually in this picture you can see a little color, and it is due to the staining. Here it is stained by a Giemsa stain, and for that reason it is a little bit color, otherwise it is transparent. And this what is Microfilaria? In short, it is a miniature adult that pertains the egg membrane as a sheet. So here in this diagram, in this zoom diagram, it is a little bit more clear. The sheet, this is a sheet. This is a stained picture of a Microfilaria. It is a Giemsa stained picture, and this sheet is very much clear. Okay, these at the tail end the cells are absent, and above this tail end you can see well defined nuclei are present, and this is a outline of the sheet. It is micron in size. It's about 20 micron image which is shown here. It is as the name implies, is Microfilaria. It is micron in size. Then typically these Microfilaria exhibit a nocturnal periodicity, and they are the most active during the night time and may be the most numerous in the peripheral vessels between the midnight and the morning. And however, this periodicity is sometimes get reversed, and the nocturnal periodicity of this Microfilaria synchronizes with the nocturnal habit of the mosquito. When an infected person is bitten by a mosquito, this Microfilaria enters the body of the other organism.